47 of the 50 ideas died before I wrote a single line of code. Not because the AI told me they were bad, because it told me they were all brilliant. Everyone. That contradiction is the whole problem with using a language model to check your own business instincts. So how do you make it disagree with you? The setup was simple, at least on paper. I took 50 startup ideas, some mine, some scraped from Reddit threads and indie hacker forums, and fed each one through both ChatGPT and Claude over 3 weeks. The prompt was the kind you find in every validation guide. Give me the market size, the competition, and the biggest risks. What came back looked like real analysis. Each idea got a tidy breakdown, a total addressable market in the billions, a list of competitors, a paragraph on execution risk. 44 of the 50 came back rated as having strong potential. The other 6 were only downgraded to moderate. Take one of the worst ideas in the batch, an AI-powered meal planner, a category with hundreds of dead startups behind it. Claude told me the total addressable market was $8.7 billion, growing at 14% a year. That decimal point is the tell. The model wasn't reporting a number it found. It was generating a number that sounded like one it might have found. Nobody knows the meal planning TAM to the 100 million, but the confidence never wavered. Every idea got the same warm, precise, plausible treatment, whether it was genuinely novel or a graveyard of failed clones. And that is the trap. A tool that agrees with everything validates nothing. If 44 out of 50 ideas are brilliant, then the word brilliant has stopped carrying information. The model wasn't lying to me on purpose. It was doing exactly what it was trained to do, which is produce a helpful, agreeable answer to whatever I asked. So I stopped trusting the outputs. The problem wasn't the model, it was the question. And the fix meant rebuilding the prompt to do something these tools resist. The fix started with a role. Instead of asking the model to evaluate an idea, I told it to behave like a skeptical seed investor whose year-end bonus depended on rejecting the pitch in front of them. Their job was to find the reason to say no. Their money was on the line, not mine. The change was immediate. I fed it the same idea I had started with, an AI meal planner for busy families, the kind of thing every generic prompt calls promising. This time, the model didn't congratulate me. It named the incumbents. It listed Me Lime, PlateJoy, Whisk, and the recipe features already baked into every grocery delivery app. It pointed out that recipe content is nearly free and infinitely copyable, so there was nothing to defend. Then it asked how I planned to acquire a first customer when the category was saturated and the willingness to pay for meal planning was, historically, close to zero. These were the exact objections a real investor would raise, and the first prompt had buried every one of them. But the pendulum swung too far. Once the model was in attack mode, it attacked everything. Ideas that had a genuine wedge got the same firing squad as the obvious losers, killed on principle rather than merit. Reflexive negativity is just as useless as reflexive praise. It's noise wearing a serious face. That's when the deeper problem surfaced. The model wasn't reasoning about my market. It was pattern matching against whatever it had absorbed in training, guessing at plausibility with no live data underneath it. Enthusiasm and skepticism were both just performances. To separate the survivors from the casualties, I needed to feed it something real, not opinions, signals from outside the machine entirely. The third iteration was less about better prompts and more about better inputs. I stopped asking the model what it thought and started giving it things to look at. Search volume pulled from a keyword tool. Screenshots of complaint threads from subreddits where people described the problem in their own words. Landing pages of companies already charging money for something adjacent. The model's job changed completely. It was no longer a judge, it was a reader, and the reading material was real. The workflow settled into a rhythm. I would find a product in the space, scrape 30 or 40 of its worst reviews, and paste them in raw. Then, a single instruction. Do not evaluate whether this idea is good. Extract the unmet needs these customers are describing and rank them by how often they repeat. That last constraint mattered more than I expected. Asking for judgment produced flattery. Asking for extraction produced a list of grievances I could actually verify against other sources. The complaints clustered, or they didn't. There was no charisma left for the model to hide behind. 50 ideas went into this filter. Somewhere around 31 collapsed immediately, because no paid competitor existed and no one was complaining about the absence. Another 12 or so had chatter, but no wallet attached. That left a short list of roughly 7 ideas where real people were visibly frustrated and already spending. One survived for a reason that unsettled me. There was a clunky, ugly tool priced at $49 a month, and its reviews were full of people who hated it and kept paying anyway. That is the strongest signal there is. When I lined up the 7 survivors side by side, they shared a single trait, and it was not one I wanted to see. The trait was money, not interest, not enthusiasm, not a growing search trend. Every one of the 7 survivors pointed at a group of people who were already paying for something, right now, badly. None of them were new markets. There was no idea about teaching a habit no one had, or unlocking a behavior that did not exist yet. The survivors sold to bookkeepers, to short-term rental cleaners, to dental office managers, to freight dispatchers. People with a budget line and a problem they were already spending against. The dead ideas were the opposite. Most of them assumed a market would appear if the product was good enough, an app to help people journal more, a platform to connect hobbyists who had never asked to be connected. Every one of those required me to manufacture demand from nothing, and the reviews I could find were reviews of enthusiasm, not of payment. Here is the uncomfortable part. The AI loved the dead ones. It consistently rated the greenfield ideas higher, wrote longer market analyses for them, and used words like transformative and untapped. The boring niche tools got shorter answers and lower scores because there was already competition, and the model read competition as a weakness instead of proof that money was changing hands. The clearest survivor was a scheduling tool for mobile dog groomers. The target user was a groomer running a van, already paying for a generic booking app that did not handle drive time between appointments. She was losing an hour a day to that gap, and she knew it. That was specific enough to spend against, so I stopped prompting. I picked one survivor, opened my wallet, and decided to find out whether any of this held up when real money was on the line. The survivor I picked was the drive time scheduling tool for mobile service businesses. Cleaners, dog groomers, mobile mechanics, anyone billing by the visit. I built a landing page in an afternoon. One headline about the hour a day you lose between jobs, one email field, one button. I put $90 behind it on Google and a bit more on a couple of trade forums where these people actually hang out. The ad copy was lifted almost word for word from that groomer's complaint. Specific pain, specific audience, a promise to close the gap. The clicks came. 231 of them over 8 days at a cost per click I was honestly fine with. People were curious. Then I watched the sign-up number and it sat there. 9 emails. That is a conversion rate under 4% on traffic I had targeted as tightly as I knew how. Worse, when I emailed those 9 and asked what they'd pay, 6 said they assumed the tool would be free. Here is the gap the AI never saw. Everyone agreed the problem was real. The groomer was losing that hour, and she said so plainly. But acknowledging a problem and opening a wallet are 2 different acts, and the distance between them is where most startups quietly die. The model had been confident about this. In its scoring, it had rated willingness to pay a 7 out of 10, with a sentence about how time-strapped operators value automation. It had no data behind that number. It could not have. It was pattern matching against a training set. not against 9 real people who thought scheduling software should cost nothing. Which left me with an uncomfortable question. Had any part of this process actually helped me, or had I just paid to be told I was wrong? The answer, it turned out, was yes, but not in the way I expected. There was exactly one function the machine did well. It read. I fed it 41 competitor landing pages, roughly 2,000 App Store reviews, and a decade of Reddit threads about time tracking. What would have taken me 2 or 3 weeks of tab hopping came back in under 4 hours. Every complaint clustered, every pricing tier tabulated, every recurring feature request ranked by how often people mentioned it. That was real work, and it saved real time. So here is the distinction that took me 50 ideas to see. The AI was worthless at judgment and genuinely useful at synthesis. It could not tell me whether an idea would sell, because selling depends on 9 specific humans and their wallets, not on a training set. But it could digest a mountain of what other humans had already said and hand it back organized. Confuse those 2 functions and you pay to be flattered. Separate them and you get a research assistant that never sleeps. The idea that eventually got traction was not clever. It was a tool that exported messy contractor invoices into the exact format 3 regional accounting firms demanded. Boring. The reason it worked was that the AI had surfaced the same forum complaint 14 times, and I finally believed it. Of 50 ideas, 47 died on contact. 2 got a single paying customer and then stalled. 1 reached 11 paying customers in 90 days, at $19 a month. That is the honest hit rate. 1 in 50. And now that survivor faces a choice the machine still cannot make for me. 2 of those 11 customers want a feature that would turn a simple tool into a platform. Say yes, and everything changes.